Warning: the following podcast contains irreverent humor, uneducated and exceptionally nerdy opinions, potential cursing, and plenty of love for the prequels. If any of the preceding offends you, please turn off your computer immediately, and may the Force be with you.
Why, you stuck-up, half-witted, scruffy-looking nerf herder!
You can't use that word! Only we can use that word!
We'll use the Force. That's not how the Force works.
You're tuned in to the Nerf Herder Council, your source for Star Wars opinion, conversation, and debate, featuring your hosts, JT. I mean, they killed his mother. What's he supposed to do? Send him a postcard? I wish you wouldn't have done that. AJ.
I was so hoping this was going to be a family show, too.
Oh, my God. Steve.
It's our goal to be played over the loudspeakers in the bathrooms during celebration.
On this episode of the Nerf Herder Council, we discuss Return of the Jedi. Is it the best of the original trilogy films? And just why did David Prowse get banned from Lucasfilm events?
This is the Nerf Herder Council.
Thanks, everybody, for checking out another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. I'm your host, JT. With me is AJ and Steve. And tonight we have a very special guest on the fourth mic, the Moof Milker mic. It is our cousin Chris, who has the extreme distinction of being our special guest on our very last dry run we ever did of the show before actually doing our first episode, and it turned out to be a complete and total cluster that was really hilarious. So hopefully, you know, it gets a little more serious than it was that night, but maybe not too much. So
wow,
It won't.
You set your standards way too high, man.
I know, right?
Do it again.
We're doing it live. So anyways, how are you, Chris?
I'm great.
Nice.
I'm tired, but great. By the way, you should release that episode from the vault at some point.
That was
At some point.
They're all in the can somewhere. So.
yeah. That was
That's the best place to listen to our show.
Exactly.
well played. That was actually
It's our goal to be played over the loudspeakers in the bathrooms during celebration.
like AJ when the first year where they had James Arnold Taylor as Obi-Wan Kenobi over the pit, like,
yeah.
Welcome to Star Wars Celebration. Instead, they're going to have that, and then when you go in the crapper, it's going to be the Nerf Herder Council.
I'd be stoked. We're at celebration. I don't care,
I know.
dude.
That's how you know you've really made it when your podcast is played in the
Wait, did you say you'd be Snoke?
Exactly.
You'd be Snoked.
We could set up a table inside one of the bathrooms at the convention center, do a live broadcast.
Sign autographs.
Right?
That's the purpose of our show,
trying to
covering the sounds of your bowel movements with the sounds of ours.
We're trying to sign toilet paper with Sharpies.
This doesn't work at all. Oh, my God. So,
Who would place the first order for an autograph? Old joke, I know.
yeah, I know. The question is, would anybody really give us any resistance if we wanted to do autographs?
The resistance would be coming from the stalls.
These jokes are just crappy.
So, in the time since we last talked, I may have an injury. So I find out tomorrow if I have something, you know, like I might have a hernia. So this ought to be fun.
Uncomfortable.
Yeah, it really is uncomfortable, let me tell you. But we shall find out. I've never actually been injured before. I've never had to go to the doctor for anything serious in 40 years of life, and this is definitely a first.
Can I just say that's hard to believe?
That's what I think. I've been lucky. Knock on wood. I hope it's something they're going to go, oh, no, just antibiotics. And I'll be like, sweet. But after 40 years of having nothing go wrong, I think I've got a little bit of karma built up into the negative. So I was telling my wife that the other day, that all the stuff that should have happened to me by now that happens to everybody else. I'm just worried that down the road, like 10, 15 years, there's going to be this giant pile. Like I'm going to get in a car wreck and have all my limbs ripped off, but like one nerve still attached, and I'll survive it. And like it's just basically every little thing that was supposed to happen happens all at once. I'm like, boy, this really sucks.
You can always replace it with a red arm.
Yeah.
Right? I'll be like RoboCop. That'd be awesome. I would love that if I came back. I wouldn't like eating applesauce all the time, but
Baby food.
yeah, I always figured, I knew it was baby food, but it tastes like baby food. It's like a protein puree or some crap with all the vitamins in it. I always thought it was like applesauce, personally.
But the gun thigh would be pretty sweet.
That would be awesome. That would probably be the benefit. But then I would just use it improperly and end up in jail or something. So,
But you'd have to live in Detroit.
yeah.
That would suck.
On second thought, I don't want to be RoboCop.
Yeah, what's the worst part? Getting shot to damn near death or living in Detroit?
Living in Detroit.
Yeah. I'd buy that for $1.
I love that movie. That is such a great movie.
The SUX 6000?
I bought that movie on Blu-ray for like $3.
You overpaid by about $2.50.
But I love it. It's so great. It is so great. It's just so unbelievably cheesy. Can you fly, Bobby? I loved it.
Red from that 70s show was evil in
I know.
Yeah, he was.
He always seemed to play bad guys. And then he got on that 70s show and he was funny. But I was like, I can't believe the family doesn't know that he's heading off to old Detroit when when he's supposedly at work. He's out there like in a coke factory, like gunning down police officers and everything.
Yeah, he's got a pretty happy-go-lucky family. I mean, Clarence Boddicker, who would have thought?
Yeah, right. That's why they call him Red. It's not actually. That's just like a nickname for Clarence.
It's an
Boddicker.
alias.
Exactly. That's his alias. How was your day, Dad? Ugh. Move on.
He's laying low in Wisconsin.
Yeah, right.
Omnicorp's coming after him.
All right. Well, the topic for tonight is something that I know, Chris, you and I have discussed a bunch. I know, AJ, you've discussed it with Chris. Obviously, Steve, you have not.
Obviously.
Because you're not related to him. You don't talk Star Wars with him all the time like
Right.
we do.
Wicked is Snoke.
Like I said last week, we're just going to run down all these characters you can ever think of. Like, Dr. Evazan is Snoke.
John's hotel confirmation is Snoke.
Oh, I got to cancel those first two that I
Your
don't need.
hernia.
Yeah, my hernia is Snoke. But no, we wanted to talk tonight because, Chris, you're of the opinion that first of all, you don't like the prequels, so
I don't dislike the prequels. I'm more of an original trilogy fan.
Yeah, well, that's what I meant.
Yes.
And in saying so, it's your opinion that Return of the Jedi is the best of the original trilogy, which is not a widely accepted opinion.
It's not, but it's the truth.
I love it personally. I think that it catches some unfair flack or criticism, and has over the years, which I've never really completely understood. Like I said, I really like it, but I don't know if it's the best of the three for me, but I still love it every time I watch it. I mean, it's got a lot to love, I think. So that's what we want to talk about tonight. Like, what for you makes Return of the Jedi the best Star Wars movie? And, the pros and cons of Return of the Jedi, since it is the most maligned of the original trilogy.
Well, I did make a list.
You did show prep.
I did show prep.
You're showing us up on our own show, man. You can't be doing that.
I am biased. I think Return of the Jedi is awesome for a litany of reasons. Mostly because it just dives into... What are you shaking your head for?
Oh, he's agreeing with you.
Okay, just because
AJ is agreeing with you.
You dive into that world, like that universe again, and it's amazing. And you see so many things for the first time that you take for granted years later. I think I'm just going to start going down my list if that's all right. It opens up with the half-completed Death Star, which looks awesome. Like, it just looks awesome,
Okay.
Like the Death Star, the first Death Star, isn't the Death Star in Return of the Jedi supposed to be like 4 times bigger or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's huge. I mean, the Death Star is cool, but it's smooth and it's got a dimple, and now it's cool.
A dimple.
And it's not a moon.
It's not a moon. The Imperial Shuttle. Is that the first time we saw an Imperial Shuttle?
No. at
No,
the
that
very
was-
end of Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, you are right. That's
Yeah.
right. All right.
But
So-
I don't think
so
anybody
skip
really
that.
paid attention to that.
No.
No, I mean,
Because
you are right.
I know that. I don't know about you, Steve, but I thought that when I first saw it in Return of the Jedi, I was like, oh, I've never seen that before.
Yeah, that's my recollection too.
Because I think at the end of Empire, everyone was like, what the hell did I just see? Like, Luke got his hand cut off and Vader's his father. You're going, oh my God. And, you know, you're
Then
kind
the
of.
ship just goes by in passing, and you're not thinking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not watching the Space Taxi.
Well, my brother Marty had that toy, and I loved that toy as a kid.
I think it's also the best Ultimate Collector Series Lego
It is.
set that they've released.
There you go. That's awesome.
I mean, it's built to scale and everything, but
But I do, going off topic real quick, why in the Star Wars universe when a spaceship lands that has a ramp and the ramp goes down, why is there all that steam escaping? Is it like when like you're on a date with a girl and you've held in your farts for so long and you finally like get to where you're going and she leaves and you're like I don't understand why they can't like
it could be
vent the
that, or
gas
I don't
into
know,
space.
like depressurizing the ship from being, I don't know, out in the vacuum of
I don't
space. There's
understand.
always that.
You would think they would have that not at the ramp where people are walking. They would have it engineer it so it would be somewhere else on the ship.
It's because everybody in the Star Wars universe wants to end up wherever they're going looking like they're at a Kiss concert.
they just want they want their hair all big and fluffy.
You're
and
right.
humid.
This is a galaxy full of capes.
True. Yeah, it's just dramatic effect.
I was watching it last night. I'm like, why is that? Why do they do that?
The Emperor comes off the shuttle looking like Marilyn Monroe in that one movie.
It's dramatic flair.
Right. So anyways,
All right, so I'll keep going on my list. Jabba Hutt and his palace I thought was awesome. You know, the huge
Yeah.
door, all the
They made it
creatures
bigger
within.
now. You know that?
I did see that on the special editions.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's dumb. But
we're
Bib
not
Fort-
getting into that again.
Oh, whatever. Bib Fortuna. Is that how you say his name?
Yeah.
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 I
love the Rancor. I thought, like, that's sweet. Like, there was nothing like that in the other two movies.
Yeah. Like you said, there's a lot of new stuff that you haven't seen.
I really appreciate Slave Leia. I mean, come on now.
Did you appreciate Slave Leia in 1983 when you were
No.
almost 7 years old?
So I was 3 in 1983.
Oh, that's right. Never mind. I'm sorry, I did my math wrong. I was thinking about myself. Well,
All
you
right,
had your birth. I had your birth month, right? So I knew you would have been 6 instead of 7. Because
Yeah.
It's all right. I was like 5 months old. So.
You saw Han being unfrozen.
yeah,
That
Han
was-
Solo came back.
that
That
was
for me
cool.
was they better bring Han Solo. As a little kid, I was like, they better bring Han Solo back.
I really did appreciate the droid torture. The droids torturing the other droids.
Yeah,
That was cool. Like,
upside down with like
you know, they never really explain it. They're just pulling them apart and like burning their feet. And
yeah.
why? Like,
It's got that great no.
instead of
like,
like you would just program. If the droid did something wrong, they could just program it. But they're like masochists. They just want to inflict pain on a
right.
droid. And it was other droids doing it. It wasn't like the aliens doing it. It was,
Can a droid feel pain? That's what I'm
they were
wondering.
screaming,
Did it have like human feet
saying,
or something?
No.
No. It was like Cleveland in in Family Guy. No.
Feel free to stop if I keep going too fast.
Well, all the stuff you're talking about, you just mentioned a whole bunch of new stuff that didn't feel out of place or hard to get along with.
Right.
Like maybe
Yeah.
that's just us and the age we were when we saw it. The same way that people who were that age when episode 1 came out just took it on face value and didn't evaluate it like we did because we were older. But all that stuff, like you said, never showed up in the previous movies. Yet still, you just watched it and were enthralled. That's all there was to it. You didn't have to figure out, well, do I really buy that Jabba makes sense, or that he's got this weird pale-faced, tentacle-headed guy who speaks somewhat gibberish, kind of English, or the spider droid. You forgot the spider droid at the front.
Yeah,
that
right.
dude's awesome. Love him. He's got is that Bomar Monk? I think that's the name of that thing.
What was the
The
liquid?
spider droid?
Wasn't it like a fishbowl with legs?
It looked
Basically,
like
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I wonder what was the liquid.
I
don't
was
know.
because it didn't have the liquid in it. I don't think that was Jabba's
it did.
frog thing.
Oh, I thought the spider.
No.
I don't know.
I don't think so. I don't know. I'm with you, AJ. I thought that it fit in pretty seamlessly.
Yeah.
And it really, to me, at least in terms of the excitement of how the last movie ended, this one picked up pretty well.
And this is where I think the special editions, I'm sorry, they did actually hurt. And we agree on this with the Docking Bay 94 scene. This is where it hurts Return of the Jedi, because you heard about Jabba in the previous two movies and had all this hype built up. So when you actually see Jabba's palace and all droid torture and all these weird aliens, and you know they're all bad. So when Jabba's finally revealed, it's a payoff. It's cool. But if you've already seen him in Docking Bay 94, it's just, oh yeah, that guy again.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could look at it that way. I never saw it that way just because it came out after Jedi, so I already knew what Jabba the Hutt looked like, so it didn't do anything. It's not like, it's not like they re-released Episode 4 in theaters, but in 1982, before Jedi came out, and they added that Jabba scene, and you're like, okay, so then it ruins the reveal of the big slug in Return of the Jedi, so it just doesn't bother me. So,
well, it doesn't bother you because you already have that knowledge from before the special edition to have had that impact.
Yeah, but that's why it doesn't bug me that they. I mean,
but
yeah,
the true way they're meant to be experienced supposedly is to see Jabba in Episode 4 and then see him again in 6. And
and we did agree on that episode that it was a pointless thing to add to Episode 4, but. I mean, Jabba really, I get what you're saying, because Jabba really was one of the coolest things in, Return of the Jedi. I mean, he can't move. He's a giant slug, and yet he's the most evil thing in the galaxy. And it's like, as a little kid, I'm like, if that guy can't move and he's still this powerful, how brutal must this guy be? Like, it was pretty crazy, and he was. Scared the heck out of me as a little kid. I was like, whoa, and that voice,
yeah. They did a great job of just building it up where he, like, when you see him on screen and you see all the characters where, yeah, okay, Lando's in there in disguise, but Leia gets captured, Han gets saved and then captured, and then Luke falls to the Rancor pit and gets, it really seemed like it was, the end for our heroes.
Yeah.
They did a great job building that up.
Yeah. I thought that the way that they brought Han Solo back into it was pretty cool, kind of having him recover as the fight was going on. They didn't really just go, oh, he's unfrozen, he's completely perfectly normal. He didn't jump out and start blasting people, So I just thought it was a really cool way to bring everybody back together in the beginning of the movie, because everybody was kind of spread out everywhere, and to bring them back together like that was pretty cool. It kind of unified them as a team, and then they go and. They're off to do this big, serious mission together, except then Luke has to split off to go do the Vader thing.
Yeah, with all the things that they had going on, with that whole rebellion versus the Empire, the fact that they all took time to go do this rescue mission on Han just shows how much that character grew and how much he mattered to the group at that point, where he was disposable at the beginning.
Yeah, that's a good point. It really did show that part of him. And, I think, like we talked about before, I think it just shows, the heroic side of Han Solo a lot in that movie. I know you and I had a disagreement about, his character a little bit, but that was part of what I liked, is how he was a scoundrel in Episode 4. And then Episode 6, he's like this really good, like, general good guy. I just thought it was cool. It kind of expanded him. And honestly, that's one of the things that I think Return of the Jedi did really well, is that with these characters that you already knew really well, it really expanded them. Like, I know, Steve, you and I talked about, especially with Darth Vader, this is like the most human Darth Vader that we ever saw. Because you see that first crack in the armor of, there's good in you, Father. I can still feel it, and it is too late for me, son. So it's like, whoa, he's actually admitting that he feels something. Like that it was something there. So,
and Leia actually got to be kind of a damsel at times, which would have seemed weak, except she was so tough in the first two movies that by the time you see the cracks in her armor too, it's more
sympathetic. I thought
it's sympathetic and engrossing than if it was just, oh, the girl saying, someone who loves you.
Yeah.
Like, oh. That could have been groan worthy, but because she was so tough, for her to show that tenderness is actually a welcome reprieve.
Isn't it crazy that just that one line, "Someone who loves you," is better than all the love scene dialogue in Episode 2? I love Episode 2. We talked about that, but that love scene. So,
what were you gonna say? I think the best line she did for love is she reversed the "I love you, I know."
Yeah,
brilliant.
That was really cool.
that's another reason why I love Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, it flipped
Turned it around.
Yeah, it flipped it on its ear. Yeah.
Stormtroopers actually hit something in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, that's right.
They had a lot of practice before then.
All right.
They hit two things in a matter of what, 5 minutes? They hit R2 and Leia,
Yep.
the shield generator.
Yep. I just love what they did with the characters because it expanded them. It wasn't just okay, here's the next adventure with these guys and the good guys win. You saw different sides to these people that you already knew who they were, and it just made them broader characters. So it was really cool. Instead of just providing, the climax to the whole, at that point, the Star Wars saga, it also expanded upon the mythos of these characters, which is a pretty cool thing to do because I don't think a lot of franchises can say that they're still establishing different parts of characters in the final act of whatever's going on. It's just basically who they are, and then they're going to go kick ass or not kick ass. And I thought Return of the Jedi did not do that, which was really original.
Yeah, usually people don't waste their time trying to build characters in the last movie of a trilogy or whatever. They're always set, and you're just watching the end of the story.
Yeah. And I thought it was really effective because, especially like I said in the Vader example, because otherwise Luke's fighting Vader, and it basically just would have been a rehash of the fight in the second movie. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm going to kill you because you're the bad guy. And if he just never showed that little bit of emotion, it would just be, I'm still just the bad guy. Even though I'm your dad, like, you still hate me because I'm trying to kill all your friends. So, So I thought that was great because it added that little bit of that. It made the fight a lot more personal. And it was kind of like, can he really do this? Can he really kill his father if he gets the upper hand? And vice versa? It really created doubt at, the critical point of the whole series.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what else you got on your list there, Chris?
I have the sail barge, but I'm going to get off of Jabba now. But the sail barges were awesome. I didn't care for the Sarlacc pit so much as that's one of my things under the lame thing. I thought
what? You didn't like the Sarlacc?
It's so stupid. It's
that was
it's
awesome.
A hole. Then they added in the special editions like a beak.
Oh, I love the Sarlacc. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, like Boba Fett dying that way is just lame. That was one of the missteps. It was just like
that's the one I would agree on. But how do you not like the Sarlacc? It was so cool. Instead of just we're just gonna line him up like a firing squad, just kill him, like shoot him with a laser. Like they had this cool beast. It's
I like the scene. I just didn't care for the creature. It's just I think it's lame.
I thought it was cool, man.
I can love this movie and still think things are kind of lame about it.
Well, yeah, obviously. I mean, that's the point of our podcast. We love Star Wars, but that doesn't mean we think Star Wars is perfect.
All right, moving on. I saw.
Yes, we do.
I like seeing the death of Yoda. It just wrapped up his story arc. That was. I don't like to see him die, but it's you have to wrap things up, and you learn about him and Leia being brother and sister.
Yeah,
which was a revelation. And then after that, that scene when they're going down into to prepare for the battle, and the music's playing, and Admiral Akbar's there, and that scene there to me feels like the beginning of the end of the movie. Like from there on is like the resolution, and
I would agree with that.
Takes place not even halfway through the film, and it's just awesome to see a movie like, it's cool at the beginning. You have a little bit of the Yoda, and then it's like, bam, we're gonna finish this movie for like an hour, and it's awesome, and it doesn't drag on. It's so cool.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, and to me, it also seemed like the mission was more dire than it was in Episode 4. Like it was bigger.
Right.
It was just, and we know that because you have to blow up the bad guy's big spaceship and stuff like that. But I thought they did a really good job of kind of getting the point across that this is kind of major. Like to me, it almost felt like a do or die.
Yeah.
And as they got closer to the battle, it really felt like that even more with the trap that the Emperor set. I mean, it really built in a really cool way. That's the one thing that I love about it the most. It really built the tension in a great way.
Yeah, it would have been really easy for them to be like, okay, well, we won in Episode 4, and we got out of it in Episode 5, so by the time you have that same conflict happening a third time, there could have been no threat. You could have just felt like, these characters are going to get through it. They always get through it.
Yeah, right.
And yet, it had that sense of, instead of feeling confident because they've seen through it before, instead you're thinking, how many more times can they get that lucky?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the death of Yoda kind of adds to that, because when Luke goes into battle, he doesn't have, he's got that sense of loss because his trainer's gone, so he doesn't know where the Force is going to take him, how far he can go. He's kind of like a rudderless ship in a way, because he's kind of like he's finally on his own to do this.
Because he had nobody riding on his back anymore.
Literally.
Right? So,
Why did Yoda disintegrate though? Why is he died and all of a sudden he just poof?
he transformed into
That's
the
like
Force.
Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan got cut down and he's like gone, like David Copperfield. It's like,
They transform into the Force. Which,
Well,
you know what?
Yoda was over 800 years old. He probably just like fell over and turned into dust. Everything was already so brittle. And everything, when he died, it all just finally let go.
Wouldn't that be great? Like they kill him and he actually just fall into a pile of dust. Yes, forever sleep. Poof! Like the guy, and it's like Luke starts sneezing real bad. He's got like a dust allergy, and then Yoda's dust corpse is like giving him hell. It's like, man, I need some Benadryl or something.
Everything relaxes when you die. What they should have added in the special edition was this really long, drawn out, like
Yoda's bowels just let go.
right, exactly.
Luke's trying to have a moment and cry, and just
There's like a big pile of dookie left. There's like Yoda's robe and then this giant turd.
but it'd have to be like 40 pounds. He'd be like, how does such a small creature have that much poop in him?
It's like a cow patty.
It's like
Yoda.
5 times as big as Yoda's body.
and it was at that moment Luke realized what that smell was on Dagobah the whole time.
Right?
He found Yoda's poo corner.
Dagobah was probably like a barren planet. And in the swamps is just Yoda going to the bathroom.
It's just Yoda's pee.
I was gonna say that wasn't a swamp. It was just Yoda like turned it into his own personal outhouse.
Plumbing? Ha! A Jedi craves not these things.
Looked like Tatooine it did when moved here.
That's good.
Oh, that's so horrible. Oh,
You want some more?
yeah, go for it.
I love the forest moon of Endor. I think that's like such a cool place.
It was cool to bring a different environment into the.
Right.
I mean, you already had the sand and the snow and the space, so
Sand is so irritating.
it gets everywhere.
It's coarse.
It's rough.
The speeder bikes were cool. Oh, what were you gonna say?
Yeah. Oops, sorry, go ahead.
I never get this right, so someone help me out. Is the moon called Endor, or is the planet it orbits called Endor?
It says the forest moon of Endor
Right. So the planet's Endor, and they're on a unnamed forest moon.
on the forest moon.
Okay.
Maybe it's just called Forest Moon.
You know what? I think it's called the Centurion moon or Century moon.
Yeah, what is that line from Palpatine?
Because he says on the Century moon, or I think it's Century moon or Century or Centurion moon. But yeah, I think it actually has a name. They just call it the forest moon, but it has a name.
I like Forest Moon better.
According to Wikipedia, it says Endor, also known as the forest moon of Endor, and the sanctuary moon.
Sanctuary moon.
Sanctuary moon. Okay. All right. So it's the sanctuary moon, but Endor is the space body that they're on.
I get it now.
I don't know.
But the
That's so
speeder
confusing.
bikes were awesome.
That was my favorite part
Yeah.
of the movie. I remember as a little kid, I was like, "Those are amazing."
I had the toy where you push the button and it explodes.
I did too.
The spring.
I
That
did
was
too.
awesome.
Yeah, those were badass. That speeder bike chase was so cool.
And now that we're on the moon, I will say I like the Ewoks. I don't care why people hate Ewoks. I can see why they think Ewoks suck, but I think the Ewoks are awesome.
I never had a problem with it.
I don't understand the hate for the Ewoks.
I think hating Ewoks is a very internet-y thing to do. It's just it's cool to complain and make fun of things. So making fun of little sawed-off Chewbacca's is low-hanging fruit. No pun intended.
Yeah. And the one argument that always comes up is, oh yeah, like a bunch of teddy bears are going to defeat the Empire. But they didn't defeat the Empire. they helped win a small ground battle for the bunker for the shield generator. So all they did is help the rebels get in there, throw some bombs in there, and blow it up so the shield comes down, and then the real defeating of the Empire happened up in space, in the space battle.
Yeah, all the Ewoks did was create a diversion.
Yeah.
It was rebel soldiers who was actually defeating stormtroopers and then commandeering walkers, and then when you've got the enemy's heavy artillery, yeah, you might win the battle.
Exactly. And it's not like Ewoks are up there in like X-wings and stuff.
But they were
flying around.
They were primitive savages. They had spears. They were spearing people. They had logs that were mowing down troops with logs. They destroyed that AT-ST with the 2 logs.
The 2 swinging logs, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
They were going to cook. They were going to cook everybody and eat them.
Yeah.
That's the thing that people seem to forget. They're like, oh, the Ewoks are so cute.
They're not cute and fuzzy. They're vicious.
Yeah. The only reason anybody got saved was because 3PO was considered a god.
Yeah.
I mean, really, they wouldn't have cared because then, 3PO levitating, they wouldn't have been like, okay, we better listen to this guy. It would have just been like, who cares? Whatever. Now the robot's levitating, and they would have lit the fire, and Han Solo would have been barbecued.
Yeah, they didn't even listen to him until Luke levitated him.
Yeah.
Right.
He's like, hey, I'm your god. Don't cook my friends. And they're like, yeah, we're going to cook your friends.
It would have been cool if in the battle they would have jumped on like stormtroopers' backs and was like gnawing at their necks and just blood gushing everywhere. That would have been. I mean, that's the type of animals they are, creatures, whatever.
Yeah.
See, this is Chris has not seen the robot chick in Star Wars. This is why I told you we got to go over to your house one time and bring all 3 of them.
Did I say a robot chicken?
Oh,
bit
there's
right there?
there's a couple different Ewok things that's pretty funny like that. So but yeah, I just never had a problem with them because it's you figure that's their home planet. They know the terrain, so they can use that to their advantage. And it's not like they just showed them running up to stormtroopers with a rock and stormtroopers wildly missing at point blank range, and they just throw a rock the size of a softball, hit the dude in the side of the head, and all of a sudden that kills a stormtrooper. It wasn't like that. I mean, they beat him down with hammers and stuff, but they overwhelmed them, or they, like we said, used the swinging logs on the AT-ST, and so they actually did some creative stuff to not make it look like the Ewoks were doing damage in a WWE hardcore match, like using a cookie sheet or something.
All right.
Yeah, it's a pretty unconventional enemy. You could kind of see why the Empire would not be prepared for that kind of assault. They're used to shooting at other humanoids and armed people. They're not used to worrying about logs and traps and things like that.
And it's not like they could justify, the Ewoks choosing sides, with the Rebels or the Empire, since it was the last movie in the saga. So you couldn't really set aside time to have the Ewoks, be explained. They were just kind of there.
Yeah. Well, it was an indigenous population, and so you figure the Empire, obviously they're not going to just go ask nicely for, oh, you mind if we set this up here? And we don't want to put you guys out or anything, or cut down any of your trees.
Everybody showed up on Endor, and they were like, "Oh, the rebels got dirty clothes like us. Well, let's fight with them."
Yeah, right. I think what started it all was Wicket told everybody that Leia gave her a cracker. So, they were like, yeah, this has food, and she gave it to me, so these are good guys. So, like,
they have the gold god, and they bring crackers.
Yeah, right?
Let's eat their
yub,
friends.
yub, yub, yub.
The alliance between Ewoks and Rebels will forever go down in history as having been started by a Trisket.
What does he say? What does Wicket say when the stormtroopers are shooting at them and they jump behind the log and then
he
says like eat your mama or something.
Yeah, it sounds like
Eat your mama.
Yeah. It sounds like I think he says Aunt Jemima. He figures that since she has crackers, maybe she has pancakes.
The one Ewok says Jabba Jabba Jabba.
Really?
He does like that one with the stripes, I think.
That is the one thing.
When he's giving the orders to like where to cook them at.
Oh yeah,
Jabba,
okay.
Jabba.
Yeah, okay. Right. Yeah, no, I think it was. I was like, hey Chihuahua. Like it was like, to me, it was always kind of a little too human, but I was like, all right. Like, so somebody goes, no. Like, okay.
No is universal.
Yeah, right.
No means no.
I got to tell you, I missed the song at the end since they redid the
Yub Nub?
Yub Nub. I had to I had
Yub
to sing
Nub.
that. I had to sing that in school in like 4th or 5th grade or something like that. I had to learn the whole song. and I had to sing it in Ewokese, and it was all these other kids are complaining, and I'm like, I was a huge Star Wars. Yeah. I wonder if that song is available anywhere on the internet. The original ending, like because I don't remember if it was actually in the end of the movie with the Ewoks actually saying "yub yub."
I thought it was nub nub,
yub nub or something. But we had to sing it. I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. I'm like up there singing.
Yeah, because they're singing it and the bonfire, and then it goes right into the fanfare theme or whatever.
Yeah. No, I loved it. As a little kid, I'm like, I'm singing a Star Wars foreign language. This is great. And all my other friends that weren't into Star Wars like, this is so stupid. It makes no sense.
Now it's like a pan flute and showing all the different worlds and fireworks and
we kind of have a thing for that song if you haven't noticed.
Yeah, that's our
yeah, I don't like that song.
I like it. I think it fits really well. Actually, that's the one thing I will say about.
It ain't no yub nub though.
No.
Hold on. Let's see if I can.
Do you?
Yeah, producer, get on it.
I really don't think they sang the actual song.
It says original on the.
I think the music's different, but it's not yub nub.
Here we go.
Oh, it is. I wish I still remember the words.
We're playing this at the next Major League reunion.
I'm telling you. I just realized that as a singer of a cover band, my singing career actually started with Yub Nub. My first public singing performance ever was doing Yub Nub.
Did you guys use the same choreography as they did? Little midgets kicking around.
There was choreography, yes. That part I was not so fond of.
It's like a drunken band.
Isn't it? Just like just shouting gibberish on key. Oh, are you seeing Sebastian Shaw on the screen? Yeah.
He's gone now. No, he's back.
The other main complaint people had.
Well, they should.
That was really good, but I still like the new closing theme.
It's not bad. I see why they went to all the different worlds and showed everybody partying, but
yeah,
how would they know? On Coruscant or wherever.
Email.
You see Coruscant. You hear off in the background.
Put it on Twitter.
Yeah, this teeny little thing going off on it shows Coruscant all normal. All of a sudden it's bing. You've got mail. And someone shouts out the window, "Hey, they blew up the Death Star. The Emperor's dead!" And all of a sudden, fireworks go off and everything.
Luke Snapchatted a picture of him next to Vader's corpse. Realsies.
Do you think he used hashtags?
I'm sure he did.
Hashtag Sith barbecue. Hashtag bye bye Death Star. Hashtag Rebels win.
Hashtag Dad hates fire.
Hashtag I didn't kiss my sister.
Hashtag I hope no one gets a hold of this and uses it in a future movie.
That was sorry.
That's okay. That's what editing's for.
How bad of that was. He got burned up and became Darth Vader, and then after he dies, they're gonna finish the job.
Right. It was the easiest way because there wasn't much left to burn. That's probably why.
It's like a starter log that's already been started.
I always thought it was
Anakin
funny.
Skywalker was a Duraflame.
What if they made Darth Vader's suit like flame retardant, and Luke is just sitting there like he's got like an aiming flame, and he lights all the logs, and Vader's corpse is just sitting there, and Luke's like there for like 3 hours, like son of a bitch, this just isn't working.
That's the thing.
It's like I pointed out, like in our first episode or something. You'd think after what happened to Anakin, that suit would have been a little more flame retardant.
Right.
Just saying. You'd think that damn thing would have had 0 damage done to it in that fire.
The Empire's like, damn, fire. Why didn't we think of that?
You would think Darth Vader, his dead weight, he has to weigh a lot anyways, but his dead weight would just be that much more heavier, it felt like. And Luke had to drag him off the Death Star as it's exploding and get him on the shuttle just to take him down to the Forest Moon and light him on fire. Like,
well, he carried him. He carried him with the Force.
Yeah, he might have. That's not a bad theory.
Wouldn't it be great? He doesn't even think about that. You see him dragging, like that's what they should have shown. They show him dragging him up the ramp as the Death Star's falling, or he's dragging him. He gets like 3/4 of the way up, and he stops and he looks around and goes, "Oh hell!" And then just waves his hand, and the body floats up in the air, and he walks right in with him behind him, like floating.
It'd be great if his foot got caught like on one of those posts or something.
He drags him just far enough in, but his cape gets closed in the door, so as Luke's flying away, it's just flapping in the breeze out in space.
It's like when you lock your seatbelt out of the car.
People are honking at him in space traffic. Hey,
yeah, you got
something hanging out the door, man.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
No, it's not. It's not a dead Sith Lord. That's what you're thinking. That would be silly. Why would I have that?
It's like that. The cops didn't see it. I didn't do it.
Yeah.
It's like, Sith didn't see it. I didn't do it.
He brings him to Endor. One of those buttons on the torso light bright was just like the click igniter from a charcoal grill or a gas grill. He's just clicking it a million times trying to start the pyre.
And then he gets over there. He's like, he looks nice. Like, damn, I'm out of propane. It shows like an empty tank. It's got the Rhino logo on the side, just like you'd go to Speedway.
The movie was going to be 45 minutes longer, but they were going to show Luke with 2 sticks trying to rub them together. Trying to start the fire.
He's using the Force to rub them together. He's got his hand in there. They're just sticks like furiously like smashing into each other.
Maybe it was payback for Uncle Owen and Aunt Veru. Like, you monster.
Yeah. Burn Owen and Beru, will you? Well, check this out.
Well, but what's with the Star Wars universe where they have to burn people once they're dead? Like all the Jawas. They were making a pile of those things, weren't they? Like,
yeah.
Like,
well, space soil is very dry and dense, and you can't really dig into it very well. So rather than bury people, they just have to burn them up.
Yeah, they're apparently not into burying their dead. They'd rather just torch them and be done with it. Right. Maybe they really like the smell of burnt hair. I don't know.
Okay. How come when Obi-Wan and Yoda died, they disappear in the Force, but like Episode 1, when Qui-Gon dies, they set him on fire?
You know what's funny? That you mentioned that when we brought that up about like the turning into the Force, I immediately thought about that because I thought, wait a minute, there's other Jedi that died that did not turn into the Force.
I remember the first thing I thought of was like, how is that hair not burning off of him while he's in there?
Yeah.
Maybe it's Maybelline. That's just makeup. Never mind.
That was my one problem with that scene. I'm like, I get that they're trying to go for some emotional toll and it's this historic like funeral ceremony, but do you realize the smell in that? It was an enclosed room too. Like they would have just been smoked out, and there's been like hair fragments, just cinders blowing in the wind, and
that would have been the best way to do that.
Who wants to sit there and watch a corpse burn? How morbid is that?
It would be great if they filmed it that way too. Like it just shows everybody sitting there watching, and the smoke's coming up, and you have that dramatic music, and all of a sudden the dramatic music just stops as you hear people in the background. It just starts building up. Oh my God, the hair! Everybody starts getting out of there.
Got into my mouth.
Yoda and Mace Windu are like, "You are being so disrespectful to the Jedi Order."
It's like, except for Yoda and Mace, who are just carrying on normal conversation in the background. Like,
right?
This is an everyday occurrence where they just set their friends on fire.
Another day, another funeral.
Cheaper than a burial.
The Jedi Council's on a limited budget.
That's how they heat the temple, actually. No, there is an actual explanation of that. If
The
you,
remaining Jedi were stoked after Order 66 because they knew the winters were going to be nice and warm.
That's a deleted scene in episode 3. They show the remaining Jedi just collecting all the corpses.
The younglings.
those are the starter logs.
There's younglings and Kanan, trying to dress up in kids' clothes and try to hide with the younglings.
Right.
Just tossing Jedis into the incinerator.
They're going for the fat kids first because they'll burn the longest.
They have that good smoky bacony smell.
They do like the lightsaber through the door trick where it just starts melting. They'll just keep the lightsaber in the youngling for like a good 30 seconds and it just bursts into flames.
Right.
It probably look a lot like General Grievous then, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly.
Flames bursting out the eyeballs. This is not sick at all.
Someone go flip the younglings. It's starting. Gotta get some crust on the other side. Just cook one side of it.
So what else do you have as stuff
right.
that you like?
The space battle was, at that time was the most epic space battle. I still think it is. I mean,
Yeah.
Episode 3 has an epic space battle to begin with, but
episode 3?
yeah, at the beginning.
Episode
Battle over
4.
Coruscant.
3.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, Battle Course.
Okay.
But yeah, seeing them TIE interceptors and just like squadrons of them flying at the camera all at once.
And
Yeah.
all the TIE fighters coming towards the camera was awesome. And flying through the Death Star. And just thinking about the technology of filming it, going over the Death Star and through a trench was, a lot easier. Not at that time, but flying through a whole model, like having
Yeah.
the model, the camera go through. It was amazing. I mean, that was awesome.
So many good spots in that battle too.
Although it's not really shown very much, but the B-Wing fighter is like my favorite fighter.
Yeah,
I
they didn't
think
really
it's-
show
I think
those
it's
enough.
the
I thought
cool-
those were
the
cool
coolest
too.
Rebel ship. This is amazing.
Yeah, they added like we talked about with the Imperial shuttle. They added new vehicles that were we hadn't seen the AT-STs, had we? That was new.
They were on Hoth.
They were on Hoth.
They were
Were
on
they?
Hoth,
Okay.
But only like in a wide shot, you saw one or two walk in or something.
Okay.
Allegedly the speeder bikes were on Hoth too. I don't remember ever seeing them, but
I
they've
don't-
shown up in enough Lego sets, and Lego's a stickler for detail and
I'll
accuracy.
have to look.
But see, with the AT-ST, I never saw him in Empire, so to me it was a new thing, and I was like, wow, look at that! It's like a mini walker. Like, it was cool.
But supposedly the Super Star Destroyer that got destroyed was attacked by the B-Wings.
Yeah,
So that's kind of cool that they could do that.
Well, technically, wasn't it? That was the only thing I didn't kind of like, was how basically an A-wing flew into the bridge area of the Super Star Destroyer, and it just took the whole thing down. Like, we can withstand a monster space battle, but if someone blows out our front windows, we're done.
No, the shield generator was blown up like moments before.
No, I mean, if you look at
Somebody in the equivalent of a space Pinto just
Yeah.
crashes into the windshield and takes the whole Superstar Destroyer
yeah, that's
down.
what happened, because the guy's like, oh,
Oh, well, that's a movie trope and a half. I mean, don't you know that that's the way electronics work in the movies? If you destroy the interface, that means the device blows up. It's like how many times you see someone smash a computer monitor to destroy the computer.
yeah, I guess so.
Like, that's just the way things work.
You're seeing this thing taking all these laser blasts and everything, but then they blow up like a, couple hundred square feet of this ship that's like the size of a small moon, and it's done for.
Well,
what
okay,
the hell
Luke,
is that thing worth?
Luke shoots the control panel for the bridge in episode 4 to block the stormtroopers from getting through. How does that work? Like, okay, you destroyed your own control panel. There's probably one on the other side, and that's definitely not where the motors for the door are located. But it works because it's a movie.
Yeah, all right, I'll give it to you. I just thought it was a little, yeah.
But it gave us one of the best scenes, because seeing that Super Star Destroyer crash into the Death Star, how cool was that?
I have to admit, I don't even like that. It's the one thing in there that I wish they would relight or do something with digitally.
The flames are wrong.
It looks like a model.
It does look like a model.
I mean, it's the lighting. It's like you could kind of tell it's reflecting off plastic and everything. Every time I see it, I think of Monty Python and the Holy Grail. And they're like, Camelot, it's only a model. I just always have that going through my head. It was great though. It was cool, and it impacted into the Death Star. But
Akbar's reaction always threw me off a little bit, actually, because the way he's supposed to breathe a sigh of relief, but it looks more like the mask or something looks too lifeless in that moment to where when he slumps forward in relief, it looks more like
depression.
He just died.
Yeah, it looks more depressed.
I thought like someone had snuck on the ship and like stabbed him or shot him or something, because it looks like he slumps over dead for a second there. It doesn't look like a living creature who's relieved. It looks like someone who's just had the life snuffed out of them.
Yeah. Well, that was just the mask itself.
Maybe,
Yeah.
Maybe he had a mini stroke right at that moment.
Right?
He might have been prone to him. That's why he was in the chair in the first place.
Yeah, right? That could very well be. No, I agree with you on the space battle thing. I know it was part of the reason they made it that big was the technology allowed them to make it that big at that time.
Right.
But I think that ties in with what I said before, where you have that sense of, it's a do or die moment because the Empire basically threw everything they had right there at the Rebel fleet, just basically saying, okay, whoever wins this battle is going to basically win the war.
Right.
And by making it that battle on such a grand scale, you kind of got the idea that, okay, this is a pretty big deal. Which, like I say, overall in Return of the Jedi, they really made it clear that the stakes of this movie, I mean, it was obvious because it was the third movie, everyone knew that the stakes were big, but they did a great job of portraying that on screen. I thought it was really cool. Everything just seemed, the scope of the scenes and the stakes were just bigger.
Right.
And it was really cool that way.
I think one of the things that made that come off so well is that they didn't draw attention to all the new stuff. Usually especially in movies nowadays, when there's something big or new in a sequel, it has this big moment where the audience can just go, but, you had the B-Wings showing up and the A-Wings showing up and TIE interceptors and even to an extent the AT-STs. Mm-hmm. All this new stuff that should have been a gasp-worthy moment for the audience, but they just treated it like this is normal stuff. Well, you just haven't seen it before.
They blended it in with the existing stuff. So you
Right.
didn't have like the first thing to show up was a squadron of Y-Wings and B-Wings, and you're like, oh my God, look at this. Like, no, it was, they showed a bunch of the X-Wings and all that stuff, and it was kind of, they were all mixed together. So it wasn't all of a sudden like you just get this huge, like you said, oh my gosh, like you just, they purposely, hey, check this out moment.
Yeah, like the new ship swoops in and destroys the entire fleet on its own because it's the newest, most powerful thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I really appreciated the space battle because there was 3 battles going on at the same time. It was the Forest Moon battle. They would cut to the space battle. They would cut to Luke with the Emperor and his battle with Darth Vader.
Yeah.
And it was all very seamless because you could see the space battle going on outside, and then it was tied in with getting the shield generator down, and they'd go to that for a couple minutes, and
yeah,
it was just a big war. It was awesome.
Mm-hmm. And you cared equally about all 3 of them,
right?
I mean, it wasn't like one was like, well, okay, if this doesn't happen, whatever. I mean, every one of them, you had the shield generator, which is if they don't get the shield down, nothing's going to happen. So you're like, that's like the catalyst. And then if Luke gets killed by Vader or turns to the dark side, then the dark side's won that battle. And the Rebel fleet is risking getting annihilated because they're grossly outmatched. And so you've got all these different things where the good guys just look like they're about to get squashed. And each of them has its own importance, and none of them seemed more important than the other.
Do you think there was a Rebel fleet massing near Sullust?
Well, there were reports of it.
Or was that just a ruse?
Well, they got it off. They probably got it off the internet. We all know you can trust anything on the internet, so they got it off TMZ. There's a Rebel fleet massing near Sullust.
More Snapchat.
Yeah, exactly.
Hashtag don't tell.
And finally, the last 3 things that I love about the movie is you see the Emperor, his demise.
Yeah,
which was cool.
How about starting with you see the Emperor?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that was cool.
You see the Emperor and his butt face or whatever you call it.
Yeah, right.
Dude, he was great right there. Vader basically carried the first 2 movies, forgetting the hologram, of course.
Yeah.
But then when you see that he instantly bends the knee to this other guy, like the Emperor didn't need any more backstory than that. Right off the bat, you're like, okay, I'm scared of this guy because Vader doesn't bend the knee to anybody.
Yeah.
And he poops himself whenever Palpatine comes calling.
Yeah,
So
you had two mentions of him to know how powerful he was, which is an Empire when the Emperor commands you to make contact with him. Move this ship out of the asteroid field so we can make a clear transmission. There was that, and then at the very beginning of Jedi, the Emperor is not as forgiving as I am. It's like, so these two things, like, okay, this guy is more evil than Vader, but it was really only two sentences that ever set that up, and then you see him, and immediately. It just, even just his look. It's just a black robe, but he's got a permanent scowl. His face is all mangled up. It's like, okay, that's it wasn't some super huge like armored costume and guns or something. It was just the simplest presentation, and it made him so evil.
Yeah, I really liked Anakin's redemption. When you watch all 6 films, minus the 7th now, but we did this, you watch in chronological order, the main character is Anakin Skywalker or Darth Vader. And it just changes it when you watch it like that. And to see him turn evil and then finally at the end of his life, revert back to being good.
Fourth quarter conversion to the light side.
Right.
And that really ties the room together. You know what I mean? It's
It almost, I liked it as an ending because it could have been one of those heavy-handed things where it's just, and again, when they humanized him and showed that little bit of a crack of, oh, well, it's too late for me, son. Like, they could have easily just made him the bad guy, and the good guy kills the bad guy, and yay, we win. But there was more at stake there.
But the bad guy was a good guy.
Yeah.
Even though he was bad, but...
Yeah. So I agree with you completely on that because, again, it wasn't just your typical good beats bad. It was, like you said, it was a redemption story, and there was more emotion to him dying, and it was cool. And the reason that I liked it personally, and this ties in with you saw the Emperor and you saw the Emperor's demise. To think that Luke Skywalker, as this like basically rookie Jedi, that would just get on the Death Star and kill Vader and then kill the Emperor would have been kind of like, come on, man, really? So they had the Emperor get defeated in such a way that it actually was believable for it to happen. The guy's all powerful, and he's so blinded by hate and the dark side that he doesn't see Vader basically turning on him because he's just so blinders on focused on what he's doing to kill Luke Skywalker and kill the last remaining Jedi that it ends up killing him. The very thing that gives him his power kills him. So the whole ending of that movie and the way it all tied together was awesome for me because there's so many different things that were cool about it, and when it could have been just a dumb, again, good guy beats bad guy.
Right.
Yeah, and that was all brilliant on Palpatine's part because that whole battle, he was coming out on top as far as he knew, no matter what happened. Because either Luke is going to have to turn to the dark side in order to defeat his father, which cements his place as the new apprentice, or Vader comes out on top, status quo is maintained. Who cares?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was just really original, and I give it a lot of credit for that. And I think that's one of the things that makes those movies, and I've talked about it before. It's one of the reasons why I like the prequels, because George Lucas wrote these movies, and it's such a tried and true format of good versus evil, and the whole religious aspect of the Force, and but it's presented in such an original fashion, and there's original twists and turns to it to make it not the standard story that you could easily turn that into. There's been other movies like this that have tried to recreate the kind of formula of Star Wars, and it just doesn't work because it's just cookie cutter, and this was not. And the ending of Jedi is just, I think, the ultimate proof of that, and I loved it for that reason. I thought it was great. So, and that's one of the criticisms that I've heard is people saying, "Oh, well, the Emperor's so bad, and Vader's just going to throw him over the edge, and he's dead." Like, well, okay. And I asked the question, well, how else are you going to kill him?
Right.
You could have Luke and Vader team up, but then you would have to have them at full strength, and that would have to be in the middle of the fight. Vader just goes, "Oh, you know what? Yeah, I kind of do love you. Okay, I'm turning."
Mace Windu could have killed him, though.
I am kind of afraid of how that final battle would have gone if this movie had been made later in George Lucas's career, because seeing what he did with Sidious in episode 3 and Yoda and how they're just chucking around lightsabers again. I could see that happening where it would end up being like the beginning of episode 3 where instead of Anakin and Obi-Wan versus Dooku, it's Vader and Luke versus Palpatine, and it's one red lightsaber against a red and a green lightsaber, and they're just crazy million miles an hour and force powers. And I like the simplicity of that fight. Actually, it's definitely less is more. The music took over. Yeah. Every saber strike counted for something emotionally.
Yeah,
they took breathers when there was more story to unfold. That's one of my all-time favorite sequences in any of the 7 movies so far.
I agree with that completely. I don't know. I don't have a problem with the end of episode 3 like you do. So I don't think it's such a stark difference, but I will agree with you on how good the one in episode 6 is. So what were you going to say, Chris? Sorry.
It didn't feel choreographed. It felt real. It just felt, obviously they're actors and they're acting, but you felt like there was weight to everything, and everything had a meaning. Like he said, every strike counted, and it wasn't as pretty. It wasn't a pretty fight, but I mean, the lighting was great, but it's not like the prequel lightsaber duels. There's just something raw about it.
Yeah, but I think I don't know if that's so much the way it was written or so much that's just the way that, I mean, in the prequels it was just good versus evil, and also they mentioned that the sword fighting style or the the lightsaber fighting style in that time period was more elegant. It was more
trained.
Yeah. Back then. So Anakin would have that ability, but Vader, but Luke would not. To him it's like a sword and you're just chopping away like you're hacking wood or something. I mean, he to our knowledge, he never had lightsaber training. They never mention it. I mean, he had force training, but there was never any mention of Yoda sitting down and running him through, lightsaber training duels. So for all you know, for him, it's just
training we saw was him on the Falcon with the stupid.
Yeah, really. Yeah, that was just, and even that was just mostly force training, really.
Yeah, but then Ahsoka got a hold of him between episode 5 and 6, and
that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Snoke.
Oh, that was on our last episode. Somebody actually tried to say that Snoke is Ahsoka Tano, and they did it because the names are similar. Like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay.
They rhyme, though. It's got to be true.
All right. So you said you had a couple things besides the Pit of Carkoon that you did not like.
I was looking at it. There's very few things I don't like about it, and that was mostly it. I don't like Yoda disintegrating. I don't like the Sarlacc pit. I don't like Boba Fett's death. I don't like anything that was added in the special editions. I just think that whole music sequence in Jabba's palace is just atrocious now.
Oh,
yeah.
It's like out of all the things in the special editions, that's the worst scene. And,
yeah, we talked about that.
Joe Yowza.
And the really fat belly dancer. I don't like the fat belly dancer. I think she was in both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why? I guess it's Jabba and he's a slug thing. Whatever.
To me, in that scene, it's the one thing. I think it's the one time you can kind of tell where the digital character doesn't really mix with the live action, because you can tell that a couple of those dancers are the CG characters and one is very obviously on set and a human. So it looks pretty staggeringly different. You're like, oh man.
But you're talking about the fat chick though, right? You're not talking about Sice Noodles.
I don't know their names.
Sice Noodles is the alien that was a puppet, green body with a really long snout with the red lips at the end of it.
No, I'm talking about the dancer.
Right, you're talking about just the plain old white fat broad.
You had like the Twi'lek slave, and then you had the fat broad who was just jiggling around.
Yeah.
She was in both, right? She was in the original one.
Yes, she was.
I can't imagine they digitally added her.
Yeah, you know what this scene needs? A fat chick. Jabba goes for the chunks.
Yeah, right. He had enough of that sexy in shape green Twi'lek chick. That's why he fed her to the Rancor.
Yeah, that's all I have. I mean, that's my dislikes for Return of the Jedi. And then I went through a list and made a list for things I liked about Empire, because everyone loves Empire, and I love Empire too. But
yeah,
I just think it's slightly less of a good movie compared to Return of the Jedi.
In what way?
I'll try to be quick with this one. Oh, the things that I don't like about it, or the things that I do like about it?
Well, what makes Jedi a better movie overall?
I think the pacing. I think Empire. The opening battle, Hoth, is amazing. It's awesome. There's no qualms there. And then when Act 2 starts and he goes to Dagobah, it just slows way down, and it's he's being trained, and it just kind of drags out, and then he has to leave to go to Bespin. And that's kind of cool, but it's not really action. It's not a very action-packed movie. I don't think, besides the beginning, I don't think there's a ton of action in it. And
Really?
And then at the end, when he fights his father and he learns about his father and he gets his hand cut off and he falls down and he goes in the Falcon and then he goes to the medical ship and that's it. It's just like, okay, it's cool. Everything's cool in it, but I don't like that there's no. I mean, obviously it's supposed to be a cliffhanger, but I'd rather have a resolution than like, okay, what's next?
There is a lot more story in Empire than action.
Yeah.
See, I would disagree. I would agree with you in terms of the Luke and Yoda on Dagobah thing, but while that's going on, they also have the chase through space with the Imperial fleet and the Millennium Falcon. You got the stuff through the asteroid field, and
but that's not really a battle. It's more of a cat and mouse.
Yeah, but I would call that action. I mean, it's one ship against a ton of Imperials. So I don't know. I didn't think it lacked for action.
As much as I do like Empire, I do have to say I really hate the world's most convenient hole that Luke fell down into once he dropped off of the.
Well, that was an air duct.
Have you seen?
It was sucking in air from the outside, so he got sucked in because it was.
Yeah.
Have you seen the YouTube video where they loop that and it's like 8 minutes long? He falls down and he gets sucked in the hole and he comes to a stop. And like those doors open, and he's falling down again, and he gets sucked in. It's a great loop, and like the music is all right because it's like that, like the flute or whatever. It's like cascading, on the scale. It's like you're watching, you're like, oh, this is stupid, and then after like a minute, you're like, this is hilarious. You keep going back and forth. It's a little long, but it might not be 8 minutes, but it's actually really funny. And they changed it, like you can do the mirror image. On a video, you can just mirror it. So he's he falls a different way to a different hole. They do that.
Going the opposite way. See, I think I would say that the differences between Empire and Jedi is really in the tone of the movie. In that Jedi has like light and dark to it, whereas Empire really is just dark the whole time.
Yeah,
it really is.
And that's cool. I mean,
yeah, I have no problem with it. I just think that. Depending on your preference, I think that's a very stark difference between the two movies.
That's what makes Jedi such a satisfying conclusion, because Episode 4 was pure adventure. Yes, important things happened, but it was very lighthearted. There was enough humor and brevity in there to keep that thing moving along. And like you said, Empire Strikes Back is all dark. So then you get the resolution with both parts of that represented pretty well, I think.
Yeah, I agree. It was almost like in Jedi, like they had made Empire so dark and just heavy that they purposely tried to bring back some of that levity to the whole thing to kind of take it out of that, pit of, oh man, what a bummer that had been created with Empire. And it started out immediately with, the R2 and 3PO talking to each other and that kind of thing, and kind of mirrored part of the opening to Episode 4, so it kind of brought back that kind of spirit to it right off the bat.
Yeah, boy, there's a scene I wish that had not been deleted, though. That scene of Luke constructing his new saber in the cave. That was cool. Oh, I love that. I mean, you talk about especially tying in with prequels. I mean, you already saw that Luke wears black through the whole thing, so you can tell that he's kind of slipping a little bit from the light, or at least battling with the dark side a little bit. But that scene of him with the hood and the cloak drawn up over himself, and he's working on the saber, and like that's such a mirroring of Anakin that it wasn't necessary for Return of the Jedi. But if they wanted to go back and reinsert it now, I think that would be a great tie-in to the prequels.
I'm glad they pulled it out.
Really?
Yeah.
Because we saw when they introduced that scene at Celebration 5, I think. Mm-hmm. Was that the one where Ian McDiarmid made his first appearance?
Yeah, was it 5 or 6? It was one of those two.
Yeah, whichever one that the guy who plays the Emperor showed up at for
Yeah.
the first time. They showed that scene, and everyone just lost their minds. They loved it. And
See,
I do too.
I love it. It's a great scene, but the problem is I think it would totally change the way that the Jabba's palace scene kind of feels, because when you find out that, okay, Chewbacca's there, and then Lando's there, and then, Leia's there, it's okay. You're like, okay, how are they gonna get out of this? You don't know. And then Luke comes, and you're like, oh, they got Luke on their side. But I think if you immediately show Luke on Tatooine with a lightsaber, first of all, it shows that he's more powerful. So he's basically, he's a Jedi now. And then you're like, all right, well, okay, of course they're going to get Han Solo out. It's Luke Skywalker. They got a Jedi on their side. I don't think it would have that tension to the rescue of Han if you already knew that Luke Skywalker was busting in.
I don't really think that, because Luke still gets captured.
Yeah, well, he does get captured, but that's not what I'm saying, like the actual events. I just mean the tone. You're not going to have that, well, how are they going to get out of this if you know they've got an actual Jedi Knight on their side?
So seeing him building his lightsaber makes him feel more powerful than him just walking in and trying Jedi stuff on Jabba?
I think you're missing my point. What I'm saying is, if you already know that Luke is there on Tatooine to help, then you don't take the predicament that they're in as seriously in trying to rescue Han, because it's just a couple of freedom fighters up against all these super criminals, and they're trying to blend in and be, I'm a guard, I'm a bounty hunter, like they're trying to fit in to do this slick, get him out of there in the dark of night, the cloak of night kind of operation. That's the feeling that it has. But it's totally different if you know Luke Skywalker's there already, because then you're like, all right, well, if they screw up, then Luke's going to bail them out. You're not really as nervous as you would be to figure out, or to see how they're going to figure out how to get Han out of there, because they have there's a bigger, the biggest playing chip on the board. So, to use a kind of a metaphor, it's a totally different vibe to the scene for me.
It would be a continuity error too, because if he had his lightsaber when he goes in and he falls in the Rancor pit and he just uses that bone, if he had a lightsaber and he would,
that's a really good point.
He would have to give it to Bar 2D2.
I've never heard him called that.
That's my favorite one to call him.
I've never heard that before. No, I never thought about that. So yeah,
isn't part of that scene him handing the saber to R2?
No.
Yeah, I think so.
I think he builds it and then he
puts
hey,
it in
hold on to this.
this. Yeah. You're right.
Oh,
he does. Yeah.
Okay, I missed that.
Yeah. Now, if we hadn't remembered that, then your point would have been correct.
My bad.
We remembered it the last second there. But
yeah, see, I don't get the lack of drama that you're talking about, because the droids come in and they relay a message via hologram of Luke Skywalker talking to Jabba.
yeah, but you don't know where he is.
Well, you certainly know he's involved. He's talking to Jabba.
Yeah, I just think it would. Maybe I'm alone in this. I don't know. When I saw that scene, my first thought is, I'm glad that they didn't show this, because I would have felt differently about the rescue of Han Solo right off the bat. It wouldn't have seemed like anything big. It's like, oh, Luke Skywalker's going to come and rescue him, so duh.
They send everybody in. They
Yeah.
send Leia in. Lando's there undercover. He sends the droids in.
Yeah.
Like, if he's this powerful Jedi, he's like, he sent everyone else in. They failed, and he's like, now I gotta go do.
Yeah, right.
Don't send droids to do a man's job.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, the hologram message to me kind of seemed like, okay, he's trying to negotiate, and the negotiation failed. So now it's like, well, how are they going to get out of this? You didn't know that Luke was there on the planet, and that was part of the whole ruse. It was just, you thought Luke was trying to play the good guy, and I'm gonna make a deal, and nobody's gonna get hurt, and I'm gonna get Han back, and then it failed. All of a sudden, you're like, okay, well, how the heck is Leia, Lando, and Chewie gonna help get this taken care of? And then Luke shows up. You're like, oh, it kind of changes.
No, okay,
Yeah.
I can see that now, because I'm thinking about it. He loses his lightsaber at the end of episode 5, And if you don't see him building a new one, then him not using a lightsaber until he springs the trap or whatever over the pit of Carcoon, that explains, you never question why in front of Jabba he never has a lightsaber to use.
Yeah.
Because you just assume he lost it in the last movie and he doesn't have one now.
Yeah.
You don't know that R2's packing heat the whole time.
Yeah. So I mean, it would just add stuff to the scene that doesn't that really takes away. Like you said, knowing he's got a lightsaber, you're like, all right. So just R2's going to give him his lightsaber at some point. There's a lightsaber, and it just wouldn't have been as tense. To me, anyway. Again, maybe I'm alone in this, but
yeah, as someone who rallies against the Docking Bay '94 scene, I have to say that unfortunately, I have to go with you on this one. It's great for a prequel tie-in, but dramatically for that movie alone, it would definitely have a problem.
Yeah, and again, it's the lightsaber thing, and the thought of having, the biggest chess piece on the board coming back. I mean, you got Luke Skywalker, who's going to beat him? He's going to win. So you're just like, all right, you'd be just waiting for that scene to be over with. Like, all right, move on. They're going to get Han Solo back. All right, I get it. Like, he's a Jedi. He's got a lightsaber. He's going to kill everybody. The slug's going to die. The Salacious Crumb is going to be, put in a PetSmart or something somewhere. Like, he's going to be up for adoption. Like, whatever. So, but, yeah, I don't know. Again, maybe I'm alone on that.
No,
I'd back you up, but I spent half of that conversation watching the endlessly falling Luke video, so I kind of missed most of that.
Nice to know our producer's really on board with us tonight.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh boy.
And I don't know, maybe it's just me with Jedi, but the one thing that I liked about it just seemed to be the most colorful of all the movies. And I know it's kind of an obvious thing to say, being that like half of it's set in a forest, but it just seemed like it went from, the brightness and bleakness of Tatooine to the blackness of space to this, forest planet, and it just really had, and then the I'm losing my train of thought. The bridge, there we go. The bridges of the Rebel cruisers are just completely, perfectly bright white, and it just was really very colorfully done, and I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's funny the way they talk about, there's so much coverage of Empire Strikes Back and what it did to work up the visual language of Star Wars by altering the lighting of the sets and everything. And then everyone wants to talk about what a great job Irving Kershner did. What about Richard Marquand? Jedi is a great movie in its own right, and no one ever gives that guy any credit.
I think it's because a lot of the actors didn't like him as a director. Like, you heard that one thing on Rebel Force Radio where they interviewed David Prowse, and he basically said, like, he wished he was dead.
Well, David Prowse doesn't like anyone.
Yeah, no
one likes David Prowse.
Yeah. He actually said that he hoped that he was glad that Marquand was dead because he disliked him that much.
That's rude.
Well, you're talking about the guy
it was crazy.
You're talking about the guy who's actually banned from Lucasfilm events now. The guy who played Darth Vader isn't even allowed at Star Wars events. He's such a prick. So
really, I didn't hear that.
Yeah. Yeah, he's pissed and moaned so many times that they finally said, "Look, you're not welcome. We're not inviting you. Don't show up."
Yeah, didn't he have a big bug up his ass last year over not being invited to any of the Episode 7 stuff?
Something like that. Yeah, he keeps lipping off, and finally Lucasfilm has officially just said, "You're not part of this family anymore. Go away."
What is he? Uh-oh, that doesn't bode well for our podcast.
Wasn't he mad because whatever his salary was small, obviously, but he was supposed to get like a percentage, and technically the film still hasn't made a profit because how they do their bookings or whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know.
He's been griping for more money or something.
He's always wanted more money.
Well, you signed a contract. It is what it is. Nobody else is getting residuals that I know of.
Well, I heard that wasn't he cheesed off from the start because he thought they were going to use his voice?
Yeah, they were. He was not happy with that.
It's James Earl Jones. How are you going to compete against that guy?
Yeah, and if you watch Empire of Dreams and it shows like the footage from on the set, and you can hear him talking, it's like, no, that's not a scary voice. Like, my voice is way scarier than his.
Mm-hmm.
And it was crazy. It was like, wow, really? Why would you ever think to use that guy's voice?
You failed me for the last time.
Yeah, right. It's Zero the Hutt's voice. What is it? You're Polly Rival Lion Trader. Take her away. Yeah, I didn't know he was banned. I knew that he complained all the time and that he was real crusty. I mean, there was a long time he wouldn't sign anything Darth Vader.
Right.
And I'm thinking, well, what else are you going to sign? No, that's all you ever did.
That's his claim to fame.
Yeah, you were a bodybuilder that didn't win anything. Who's going to do that? Like, if you want to get known for something besides Star Wars, go to bodybuilding competition. Otherwise, sign Darth Vader stuff. That's the only reason anybody knows who the hell you are. Mm-hmm. I will say this: did you guys know what he looks like?
No.
Oh my God! You look.
He's probably ugly as sin. That's what I'm guessing.
Dude, I don't know what happened to this guy. He must have got knocked in the head or something because if you look him up in like the 70s. Seriously, because if you look him up in the 70s, he's like a normal looking dude, and then like in the last like 5 or 10 years or something, it looks like something hit him in the head and knocked him cockeyed because one eye is like way pointing the other way. I mean, he got really wall-eyed. I'm like, what the heck happened to this guy?
Boy, it sucks when you age 40 years and don't look as good.
Yeah, but I've never seen anybody else age and be able to
hernia.
Yeah, well, no, like I've never seen anybody else that aged and like all of a sudden like they can count chickens in the backyard while sitting on the front porch.
He looks he looks like he's got that Peter Griffin stroke face, dude.
Am I wrong?
Like the whole right side of his face is like 3/4 of an inch lower than the other side.
Yeah, seriously, one of his eyes just was pointing to the. And I don't know.
Are we
maybe,
sure he didn't actually have a stroke?
I was just about to say.
Laughing at a stroke victim.
I was just about to say maybe.
And he walks all gimpy.
Yeah, and then one side of his mouth drools. I don't understand. It's all on the right side of his body. What happened there? It was like he partially melted or something.
You're part of a Rebel Alliance and a traitor. Take her away.
One eye's looking at you, one eye's looking at that fire extinguisher on the wall to the left. Yeah.
Right?
It's okay. We can talk bad about him. He's not affiliated with Star Wars anymore.
When he was looking at the Emperor and Empire, he was actually looking out the window too. So he's watching the space battle while he's listening to what the Emperor was saying.
Yes, my master. Ooh, ship blew up.
He was the most attentive Sith Lord ever.
He can see things before they happen. No, he can just see them simultaneously.
That voice though,
Oh my
Adam, did
God.
sound like, I would imagine, I can't pronounce the name, Neem
Num, yeah.
Num with,
Yeah.
it looks like beef flaps for his face.
Right. Dude, I'm telling you.
Oh man, you can't make fun of him like that.
It looks like Rodney Dangerfield.
Yes, you can make fun of him
No.
like that.
He's an elder. He's a senior
Boy, he doesn't get
citizen
any respect.
who's obviously had a stroke, and you're like, oh, look at that.
How do you know it's obvious that he has a stroke?
Look at his face. Just look at it, man.
Can you please, Steve? Can you please look up whether or not David Prowse had a stroke? Because I really am going to
Look
feel
up
bad.
look up the signs of a stroke. That guy had a stroke.
No, don't look up the science because obviously it looks like he had a stroke. But if he didn't, then he just aged like more
No,
horribly
your
than
face-
any human in
half your face
creation.
doesn't droop like that. And you, oh, you're sick.
I didn't know. I wasn't. It's not like I was like David Prowse is a jerk. Let's make fun of his stroke that he had. Like
He's like the inverse of a walleye. You know that like that fish starts with eyeballs on opposite sides of its head and then they grow over to one side. He's like doing the opposite.
yeah. I don't want to say anything else funny until I know for sure whether or not that was caused by a medical condition.
With the way his eyeballs are floating around, you give it another 10 years, he's going to look like Akbar.
It was funny until I realized the guy did have a stroke.
You don't know if he had a stroke
I work
yet.
in a hospital. That guy had a stroke.
Oh, please. What are you, Doogie Howser now?
Yes.
Like, just because you work in a hospital, you know all the conditions? If
That guy had a stroke. I'm telling
if you knew medical conditions for sure, you'd be able to tell me whether or not I actually have a hernia.
You have a hernia. Where you're pointing to, that's a hernia.
Does it say anything?
He's got arthritis.
And osteoporosis.
Yeah, right.
And
Eyeball arthritis.
All right, there's a whole thing for health problems.
he's got gout.
Yeah, right. Please tell me that I'm not making fun of a guy that had a severe medical condition, because that is like horrible.
Man, just prostate cancer.
Okay, well that doesn't affect his face. See, he didn't have a stroke. He just aged terribly.
Well, I guess it's a good thing Vader died young then.
And it's
huh?
cool. He's in remission too, so he's all right.
Could you?
And he's got a little bit of dementia.
Could you?
All right, let's.
But yeah, no stroke, so you're okay to go.
Could you imagine at the end of Jedi if they had him at that age and Luke pulls off the helmet? He's like, he puts it back on.
Slides it back on.
Luke, let me look at you just for once with my own eyes. Which one, Dad? He's not sure whether to like go over to his right side.
Luke has to move like 4 feet to the left.
No wonder they burned him.
Help me take this mask off. How about no?
Yeah, I don't know, Dad. Maybe you should leave that on.
You just hear the as he lifts the thing off. He's like, slides it right back down. Dad, it's stuck. It's stuck. I couldn't get it off.
That Darth Vader is a jerk video where he's in his chamber. The door. So they'll do a video of Luke taking it off, and then I'll put it right back. That's one you gotta make. You just superimpose that face on
on it, and then have Luke put it back on.
Take it off, put it back on. Take it off, put it back on.
I think of all the ideas we've given for Disney storylines and everything, this may be our best idea ever.
And then he burns them.
Yeah, right.
Son, I'm still alive.
Yeah.
No, you're not.
Yeah. Again, Monty Python. You'll be stone dead in a moment.
I'm not dead. What's that?
That's what we
He's
need.
not dead.
We need a mashup of Luke dragging Vader's body. I don't want to go on the cart.
I feel happy. I feel happy. You have to get that picture off the screen. I can't stop laughing at it. Oh my God.
This whole part of the podcast is going to sound great at half speed.
Right. No. You need to cut and paste that picture and post it on our show page, so that we'll just say, hey, here's what we were talking about on the show tonight.
Make it your profile picture.
Do you think David Prowse was actually banned from Lucasfilm events because he was scaring kids? There's so many young children there now. They'd want to get an autograph from Darth Vader. They'll go, ah!
The truth of the matter, he's a really nice guy, and they paid him well, and he has no beefs with anybody, but he's just so damn ugly. They're like, you can't come around anymore.
Like, look, Dave, you got a face that could stop a clock. We can't have you back.
They're like, put on the damn Darth Vader mask. It's the only way you're coming. It's in character.
You're going down the line getting all his autographs. You get person. Hey, why does this guy have the Vader mask on? Like, what the hell? Oh, it's David Prowse. Cool. Hey, can I see you without the mask? No. No, you may not.
He's kind of growing into a rancor in his older years.
Yeah, right.
To find some contact info, man. We can like lie to him and tell him how much we hate Star Wars and we want to talk to him.
Oh, jeez. Dude, you probably would, too. Dude, look
Like,
at
we're
that.
going to talk bad about George Lucas. You want to come on
Right.
our podcast?
Look at that face. David Prowse is Snoke.
Very well could be.
You know, he could be.
It's his green light back into Lucasfilm.
He could be. He could be
Snoke.
talking in that picture.
Right.
It's his eyes.
Yeah, I told you, dude. It looks like he started melting or something.
Half of his body got sucked into space,
Actually,
and then they
he's
pulled
the
him back
opposite
in.
of cross-eyed. He's like, instead of looking, he's looking like a fish.
I think they modeled the melted helmet in Force Awakens after what he would have to wear.
He actually started looking like that because when they burned the Vader thing to film Episode 6, he was accidentally still in it, so he actually is a burn victim. Oh my god!
At 900 years,
He's
you
supposed to be
reach.
looking.
Look as good as you will not.
He's supposed to be looking at Luke, and he just keeps telling about all the stormtroopers that are running away 400 yards to the left. Aren't you going with them, son? Going with who?
It is too late for me, son. I am. Oh, there's a big girder about to fall on you over there. It's like keeping an eye out.
In episode 5, he was trying to move
What a
things out of the
beautiful
way
sunrise.
from Luke.
You're
and
facing
instead-
south, dude.
Everything was being thrown towards him.
What was that, dude?
I said in episode 5, he was trying to move the stuff away from Luke to get to him, and instead it was an accident. The
Yeah, he
big
wasn't-
box, the girder.
Sorry. Sorry.
He just wanted to get to his son to chit chat, intimidate him a little bit. Like, look, I can throw around. Now, well, he didn't mean to hit him with that stuff.
He was actually trying to hit him with every one of them. He was just missing wildly because he was like,
Oops.
yeah.
Son, hang on a second. There's something falling. Let me get that for you.
I know how he got.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that.
I know why he looks like that. In episode 4, when his TIE fighter goes spinning in outer space, it probably spun for like 5 years or whatever it was. He just kept spinning and spinning until he got picked up somewhere. His eyes just all cattywampus like.
Cattywampus. I'm just picturing out the googly eyes, like on the like.
You don't have to picture with googly eyes. You just have to look at him normally.
Well, all right. Well, on that note, we should probably close up shop here.
He looks like Sloth.
Baby Ruth.
Well, my goodness. Oh, thanks, Chris, for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
That was a great conversation. I can't get that picture out of my mind. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in to another episode. You know where to find us, nerfherdercouncil.com. All the usual podcast places, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Podbean, Spreaker. You can hit us up, feedback at nerfherdercouncil.com. Let us know what you think of the show. We do have the Facebook, the Twitter, at NHC Podcast. And we look forward to, future shows and future conversations and more pictures of David Prowse.
It is too late for him, son.
Nice. So anyways,
That picture, it looks like he's force choking something.
he's actually trying to force choke something in your direction, but he's
He's just choking something about 2 miles to the west.
Oh my God. Well, on that note, thanks again for tuning in. Hope nobody was offended. David Prowse did not have a stroke, so we're off,
That we know of.
yeah, we're off the hook. So I'm your host JT at Dog Pound Jedi. He's AJ.
At Drake Adams 579.
He's Steve.
I'm going to make a new Twitter account at David Prowse's left eye.
Until then, your actual Twitter is,
JSteve1005.
and we'll catch you next time.
This bucket of bolts is never gonna get us past that blockade.
This bucket's got a few surprises left in her. Plus, me and Chewie are on it. Ain't that right, Chewie?
Hell yeah, you my nerf herder.
You my nerf herder.